Welcome back to Emotional Runway, the entrepreneur's guide to mental health. Krista is off today, but we have a very special guest, and that is Jake Rothschild, the founder of Jake's Ice Cream and about 100 other companies. So, Jake, thank you so much for joining us. Thrilled to have you on the podcast.
It is absolutely my pleasure.
Well, we go back a couple of years. You and I met actually when I tried to rent your mountain cabin, and you had to reach out and tell me that unfortunately somebody had broken into it, and we were not going to be able to rent it that weekend. So that's I don't know if it was many years ago, but I have been a fan of Jake's Ice Cream for sure. Rain check. We did get to go back. I have been a big fan of Jake's Ice Cream since I was in college, and then I was thrilled that we got to meet and we became friends and bonded over entrepreneurship and all the fun roller coaster that it's been.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about just kind of your background. I know it's quite varied, but tell me about your entrepreneurship journey and how it began for you, and obviously there's a lot in between, so we'll have a lot to unpack.
Sure. Well, I wanted to have my own money at a very early age. So I was babysitting and I was mowing lawns, and somehow I got into seashell jewelry where I was buying really beautiful seashells and turning them into rings and bracelets and so forth for women mostly. And I actually got an account at a very nice boutique in Gastonia, North Carolina. And I did that until I got to college. And then I was cleaning people's houses and, get this, delivering singing telegrams as a clown in long red underwear.
That's amazing.
Whatever it took.
That's the best entrepreneurship origin story I've ever heard.
That's how it all started.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then when did it? Then it somehow morphed into ice cream.
It all went downhill from there.
Yeah. So,
So I invented the first instant all natural hot chocolate in the world.
oh wow, I had no idea.
And I did that by getting fired from my very first restaurant job in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, for saying too loudly that they needed to have better hot chocolate than Swiss Miss because that stuff was like chocolate water. And I got fired for that. But the owner of the company was so sweet, Grant Kornberg, and he took pity on me and he said, if you have a better hot chocolate, bring it in tomorrow and we'll give it a shot. And if it's good, you can have your job back as long as you keep your mouth shut.
Nice.
And the next thing I knew, I was in Money Magazine.
That's wow. Okay, that's
There are a few
crazy.
steps skipped
I was gonna
from
say,
there.
yeah. I think you probably came up with a better hot chocolate. It sounds like.
Yeah, yeah.
And how did you end up in the ice cream world? Probably not a big leap from hot
Well,
chocolate.
it wasn't a big leap, but what was interesting is I was at Chapel Hill to be in the School of Journalism. And I got an internship with the Raleigh News and Observer. And I loved the writing, hated the culture. And they thought I was a bit of a misfit and a snob, which I certainly didn't mean to be. But they said, so what are you going to do if you're not going to do what we do? And I said, I want to write children's stories. And they started talking about Roald Dahl and maybe that I could do the Willy Wonka thing. And I thought about that hot chocolate I had just created, which hadn't gotten really well known yet. And I was like, I could do that. I'd have to find some Oompa Loompas, but I could do that. And the next thing I knew, a writer from Money Magazine contacted the school and asked if they had any kids putting themselves through school in unusual ways. And my financial aid counselor said, I know just the guy. And the next thing I knew, Money Magazine was coming down to interview me. And it turned out this product I'd created was the first
Huh.
of its kind.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's kind of a theme of your journey, right? So, I mean, you obviously founded the ice cream business, and then when you and I started to get friendly, you were, the ice cream business was up and running and had been for a long time. And then
Sure.
what I found fascinating about the other stuff that you had going on around it was that you were helping other entrepreneurs get their food businesses started. So it was almost an incubator for food entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
And
And
so,
that's actually my passion. We have something called Our Village Kitchens, and we helped launch King of Pops and Old Fourth Ward Pizza, Little Tart Bakery, and now we are going strong with this, getting ready to add a second location, and it is what makes my heart beat. I love doing it.
no, that's incredible. And so, I mean, what I've always loved about your story and your journey is that it's about your entrepreneurship journey, but it's also about helping others on that journey, and making
Right.
sure that people feel incubated, so to speak.
Right.
But you and I have also had a lot of conversations about how hard this is to run a business and to run many
Yeah.
businesses,
Very.
and all of the roller coaster that goes along with that. So, what? Tell me, what has that been like for you? Obviously, not all sunshine and roses. I don't think it is for anybody. But
It's
what?
definitely not been all sunshine.
Yeah. Well, tell me. Let's talk
So,
about that a little bit.
we had a nasty, nasty lawsuit years ago where uh, we had grown to a certain size, and some people we took into the company decided they wanted all of it and wanted me to leave, and they stole our recipes and started a competing company, and it got very public and very nasty, and they're gone, and we're still here,
Yeah.
and it literally nearly ended me physically as well as financially. But I had people who stood by me, including my dad, and I just didn't want to give up, and I didn't. And I will say that of all the people in the world to have really stood by me was my landlord, John Morrison. He has been my landlord all these years, and I couldn't be here doing what I do without him and his wife Elise. They
And
just really believed in me.
they kept you going through the tough times, and didn't come
Yes, yeah, they
putting
never
padlocks
never
on the
let go.
door. Yeah. No,
Exactly, exactly.
no, and I think that's so important too. Is people who understand that this is hard and there are ups and downs, and that it takes some grace to kind of get through this life as an
And a
entrepreneur.
village.
Yeah, no, well, that is very much the case. So,
Yeah.
tell me about your village, because I know you. One thing I know about you is that you have amazing people around you. Every
Yes.
time
I
any
do.
of them need a single thing, you're always crowd raising to help them out if something happens, and that's people stick by you and are really part of the family once they join your
Thank
organization.
you for saying that. It is the reason why there's so much joy in what we get to do. The first person that comes to mind is Shay Daniels, who's our GM. She's been with us for 10 years, and she is a spiritual connection for me as well as a very, very dear friend and partner. And she makes the wheels go round. And there's Candace Beatty, who is a business partner and dear friend. I call her my sister from another mister. And there's John Warner and Rick Westbrook and John King and all kinds of wonderful chefs that are standing by me. Naisha Turner. It's a love fest, and it's been this way for a long time.
And is that what keeps you going? Would you say, or is it the work? Is it the
Yes,
people?
it's the relationships. It's the love. We're doing this interview on Valentine's Day, and I made a post that says, "If you're not in love, just be love."
And speaking
And
of
that's
which,
really why I'm happy today.
tell me about Love, because that's a new chocolate bar line that you're launching, and I want to hear about it.
Yes, yes. Well, that one has a little drama involved too. So, with the incubator, we interview lots of people who come in, and because we're an incubator, we have an ethical responsibility to disclose what things we make that might also overlap with what they do in their space. And we told this person that we had created a love bar, and she promptly took it and ran with it with her own company. And I was not in a place emotionally or financially to sue her. Uh, and I had an attorney ready to do it, but I was like, no, I'm just going to sit this one out. And her business went under, and I had lost the molds probably years earlier, And about 5 weeks ago, I found them. Knew she was out of business and wasn't going to cause me any trouble, so I launched, and we haven't sold the first bar yet. We're going to be doing that, of course, right after Valentine's Day. It's
Right.
such great timing. But we're letting our community help us with the packaging, which is a lot of fun. Because what we want to do is have love messages inside the wrapper. And if somebody wanted to propose marriage to their sweetie, they could stick a proposal inside the wrapper. So it's kind of like a golden ticket thing. And we're very excited about the way people have responded. They've been fantastic. Everybody's got an idea they want to incorporate, and we love that. We love to collaborate, and that's love.
Well, and I think, I mean, it really shows, I think, in all of your endeavors because, you, every business that you have, every incubatee, every interaction that we've had with you on a business level. We did something at the cooking school for Skyfire,
Yes.
my company, and everything is just fun. I mean, everybody that's involved is
Yes.
fun. They all. It's a big happy family, and that really shows.
Well, it
Even though,
definitely takes one to know one
well,
because
I appreciate that. I
you've
think
brought so much joy into my life that you don't even know about.
no, well, I mean, I appreciate that,
Let
and
me
that's
give
why
you
I
an
think,
example.
yeah, please.
Every time I look at the video of the drone approaching my home in Toccoa, I swoon because it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
You did so much beautiful work for us, and you know we adore you.
No, well, the feeling is definitely mutual, and that's why we keep reconnecting. Even though I've sadly I've moved out
Yeah.
of the city of Atlanta, so I don't see you as much. But
And you didn't ask my permission.
I know,
I was like, "What's he doing?"
I know everybody else was like, "Oh, that's a bummer," and you were like, "Are you kidding? You're leaving the city?" So no, and I appreciate that too.
I
And
was like, "You were my people. You're my tribe.
yeah, no, well, and we'll
I
have
was like,
to
where's he going?"
have you out to Huntsville. Speaking of which, having you out to anywhere, you are on your first vacation right now in many many years, which
Yes,
I'm
in 10
rudely
years.
interrupting with this podcast recording. But
No, it's wonderful.
tell me about why haven't you taken a vacation in 10 years, and what made you finally make that decision? Because I think that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs deal
Yeah,
with.
yeah. And listen up for all of you people who are workaholics like myself. Um, Resetting and recharging your battery will do so much to grow your business. Stuff I had no idea. But I have a deserving issue. I've always had this thought that, oh, I haven't done this yet, so I can't have that yet. And when I have something really wonderful happen, I'm looking for the number 10 bust coming to mow me down. That's just, it's kind of goes part and parcel with the imposter syndrome,
Well, and I'm going to play the role of Krista today since she's not joining us here too. But I think that's a very common
by all
theme.
means.
Yeah, I think that's a very common theme among entrepreneurs because, you're starting something that you ostensibly don't know a lot about when you start the business, and you're faking it till you make it, so to
Absolutely.
speak. And so
Exactly.
there's a lot of this, like I have to, put on a happy face, and I got to pretend like everything's fine. And, honestly, you may or may not know the backstory of why we started this podcast, but that's exactly what it was for me, which is,
No.
we are doing lots of great things, but sometimes money comes along with great things, and sometimes it's just great things that eventually will lead to money. And so I felt a lot of imposter syndrome when people were saying, "Oh my God, Skyfire, you guys are awesome. You're doing such great things." And I was like, "But then why isn't it turning more revenue?" And so I sort of felt like,
Okay.
okay, yeah, we're doing great stuff, but I felt like a little bit of an imposter. Like, yeah, we have great ideas, and why is the money not following it? And that's what really I think led me to this idea that there's something missing here, and that it can't be that everybody that's posting about all the wonderful things that are happening in their business isn't also struggling with something else. It can't be that they're all
Oh,
killing it,
absolutely.
right? And we know this too. I mean, from years and years now of social media being a part of our lives, and people post all this stuff about
Right.
everything's perfect, and my life is amazing, and my marriage is incredible, and my kids are amazing, and we all know that
Right.
some of that is
Right.
bullshit, right? So
Right. Exactly.
that's the point of all this, is to kind of cut through some of that and say, look, it's not all wonderful all the time, and there are ups and downs. And
Right.
sure, on the whole, yes, Skyfire is doing amazing things. So is your company or fleet of companies.
Right.
But there is definitely there are things that make this hard, and we need to be honest about that. And that's what we're trying to accomplish here.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you're doing what you're doing. and that I get to be a tiny part of it today.
Well, and actually, I told you this yesterday when we started talking about this. You were kind of the impetus for some of this as well, too. You and I, this has got to be 3 years ago now. We had lunch. This was before COVID. Had lunch, and we were just talking about our struggles, and
Yeah,
for you, and I don't know if this is going to come out right, but you always, because I didn't know anything about you personally going into our friendship. I just knew Jake's Ice Cream, very successful staple in Atlanta.
sure.
Something I had been visiting for 20 years, and to find out that, it again, it's not everything is what it seems. I mean, you have had a lot of success.
Right.
I don't mean to downplay that at all, but you
Sure.
have had struggles as well too. And so that's where that sort of idea of, hey, just because it looks like everything's going great doesn't mean it necessarily is, and it's okay that that's the
Correct.
case, and let's talk
Correct.
about it. So we didn't start the
Right.
podcast till 3 years later, but I think that was the first conversation where that started to kind of click with me.
Sure. Sure. Well, I really learned what was possible for my emotional shift when the pandemic hit. Because I'm standing in a kitchen in a building of 6,000 square feet, and I'm the only person in the building because everybody has fled. Shay, who I adore, had to take her children and grandchildren out of the city where they could do their bubble, and they went to Nantucket. No, Martha's Vineyard, excuse me. And I'm like, how can I do this without her? And there were all these other things. How can I do this without? And I felt like I heard a voice. I was not hearing a voice, but I felt something that said, Jake, you were made for this. You will figure this out. And I got a sense of calm like I had never felt before. And I started writing stuff down. And one of the things that I wanted to do was for my community in the Tri Cities. So East Point, Egan Park, College Park, Hapeville. And I thought, maybe they'll need ice cream to get through the stress. So I'll deliver. I'll make the ice cream. I'll take the orders. I'll deliver the ice cream. I'll wave from a distance. And it took off. And it was incredible. And then, even more exciting to me on some levels, MailChimp, which is one of our biggest clients, called and said, we can't let you go out of business. We've been working together since they started and we started. And they said, can you do remote classes and ship the food to our team? And I said, I've got a camera shy thing going, but I'll give it a shot. And they said, what do you mean you have a camera thing? You're so extroverted. I'm like, actually, I'm not. And so I learned a lot about the fact that I'm actually an introvert who has to fake it really big
Hmm.
to be able to be in front of people because I love people, but I'm very self-contained.
And that in and
And
of
the
itself is
pandemic,
exhausting, by the way.
it is.
Putting
It
it
is
on all the
exhausting.
time,
And
yeah.
but to say the pandemic changed my life for the better sounds a little bit crazy and something you one should say quietly and with respect to all the people who were affected negatively by it. But it was something that I needed. I needed everything to slow down. That's why I pray for snow all the time.
Well, living
I
in
just
Atlanta,
said, if we could all just get snowed in for 4 days,
you're not going to get it
I could
much in
catch
Atlanta,
up.
unfortunately. Nor are we here in Huntsville. But yeah, no, well, I mean, look, I think that's a pretty common theme, and I'm starting to hear a lot more about this. And of course, yeah, it doesn't take away from all the people that suffered from COVID and lost loved ones to COVID. But I mean, I think it was the slowdown that all of us needed in some respects. I mean,
Right.
it it changed. It changed where I lived. I thought I'd never move out of Atlanta, and
Right.
certainly not to northern Alabama. But
Right.
that has led to some incredible things on a personal and professional level. Just being in the home of Rocket City, and all the really cool
Sure.
aviation stuff that's happening here. And but we never would have done that. We never would have homeschooled our kids.
Right.
Which we've done
Two
now for the
beautiful
last
kids.
two or
Oh
three
my
years. Yeah, they're big fans of yours. When Brendan came to do an ice cream making class with you, that was like the highlight of
yeah.
every kid's life, is
Oh, that's
to
awesome.
learn how to make his own
And do
ice
you
cream.
remember pivoting before you left and bringing us my very first masks?
Oh, I do.
You
Yeah.
remember doing that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And a
Oh,
sanitizer,
oh my
which we
God.
couldn't
Yeah.
get anywhere else.
My,
That was you.
my
You showed up.
brief foray in the hand sanitizer business. Yeah. Well, and honestly, why
I
I
thought
did
you were amazing.
well, why we did that was because I was bored. I mean, like you said, that the same thing. It was
I agree.
I was in my office. There was nobody else there. We couldn't go out and teach drone classes. We couldn't, go out and do drone video stuff because all the film and TV industry had shut down. So we were all just sitting around, like trying to figure out what to do with ourselves. And so I said, I'm going to sell some hand sanitizer. So I bought a 55-gallon drum of hand sanitizer and I split it up into
I
gallons,
remember.
and did the same thing that
And I
when
got
you.
to be on your list. I was thrilled.
Yeah, well, when you started delivering ice cream, I was delivering hand sanitizer. It didn't last very long. I found out it was not necessarily the business for me, and probably was
I hear you.
bordering on illegal repackaging, all that stuff. But anyway, that was a couple of years
Oh,
ago.
okay.
But at the time, everybody needed it. And by the way, I have to say, I did not price gouge. Everybody paid a fair price for
No,
hand
you did
sanitizer.
not.
Paid a fair
Absolutely.
price.
You were wonderful.
But
And you delivered, which was really wonderful.
I did
Because we
well.
didn't know what we were doing. Nobody did.
No, yeah, we were all finding our way through there, and yeah, I mean, but like I said, I think that's not an unpopular sentiment that the pandemic has had certainly negative effects on our life and our culture and our economy, but certainly some positive ones as well too. So,
Sure.
and I've seen that
And it's a
change.
metaphor for me because we're not in a pandemic now, knock on wood, but the thought of slowing down
Yeah,
and reassessing and saying the big word that I never knew how to say before, which was no, or yes to things that really matter to me. I wasn't doing that. I was just kind of on this fast trajectory of insanity, and I paid a price for that.
well, what made you finally decide to take this vacation this week?
Love. I'm with family members, and I was invited, and I had absolutely no excuses left. And I wanted to spend time with them and really just kind of recharge my batteries at the same time. I don't know how to do vacation. I don't know how to do the word relax. That's not a gift of mine. So I thought this would be a great way to do some practicing and spend time with phenomenal people.
Yeah, well, I think that's so important. And we had a fantastic guest on the podcast a couple weeks ago who talked about taking little vacations every day and taking time out and
Yeah.
space, and that's something I've learned during the pandemic is to say, hey, it's okay to look. I got to disappear for half an hour. I got to go for a walk, do some
Yep.
physical
Yep.
exercise, just to get my brain right.
Right.
Uh,
Well, I have coffee on Cyber every single morning with my friend Kathy Luce, and my life has changed just because of that.
yeah,
And I never did that before. We've been doing that for about 5 weeks now, and just literally we count on each other every morning about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. We're on the computer chatting away, and it's a vacation. It really is.
I mean, and that's what you have to do, I think, too. So, as you mentor entrepreneurs in the studio and other people that whose lives you touch, what advice are you giving them as far as getting through this life that we've all chosen to do?
Well, the first thing I do when I am interviewing somebody to come into the incubator is, why do you want to do this? Because your recipe may be fantastic, it probably is, but why do you want to do this? So I try to get them very connected to their own selfhood and purpose, so that they're not doing it just because they want to do it. Like you with the sanitizer, it wasn't your jam. That wasn't something you built from nothing. You bought somebody else's. And so we do a lot of screening and truth telling and question asking about, why are you going to do this? Because if it's going to bring you joy, we're in. But if you think you have to do it because of something that doesn't really resonate for you, then maybe it's really not a great choice. So we actually turn more people around and out the door than we bring in, because we don't want them to have a lifetime of money spending and heartache over a product they're not in love with.
Yeah. No, I think that's so
So that's
important.
where we start.
You have to have that calling, right? Or some of this stuff just makes you
Yeah,
wonder, question your judgment. So
exactly.
there has to be a bigger
Exactly.
why, for sure. No, that
Well, it's also we're talking to people about college. We're saying, if you're going to go to college, not everybody goes to college anymore. Take the courses you want to take.
yeah,
Don't worry about the curriculum. Don't worry about graduating. Get your education your way, a la carte, and make it something that matters to you. because you're spending a lot of money to be there.
Well, that's
So the
another.
paper, yeah. Go ahead.
No, no, that's another sort of, I think thing that's coming out of the pandemic, post-pandemic world is,
Yeah,
take what you need from the world, and if it's you want to take the right courses and
exactly.
go on great courses or Coursera or one of those master class and take the ones you want
Right.
to take and don't worry about the rest of it.
Exactly.
So
Right.
no, I think that's all. I think that's all super important. So, mentally, how are you doing today? How is the business going? What are you feeling positive about the future right now?
I'm probably delusional because I have a very excited outlook about the future. I keep hearing about inflation. I keep hearing about the recession possibilities, and our business is booming, and all of it. The ice cream, the cooking school, with team building, it's booming. And I had a week with my father several weeks ago to go to our family farms, and he said, "What are you going to do when the crash comes?" And I said, "I don't know if you heard this word much during the pandemic, Dad, but I'm going to pivot." So I no longer feel like the sky is falling like Henny Penny. I feel like if it falls, I'll duck.
Yeah.
I'll dodge, you know.
No,
I'll be okay.
yeah, I mean, you
And
have
so will
to.
my people because I'm devoted to them.
Yeah. No, and you have to, and that's where I feel the same way. I have my core team that is amazing, and I would they'd go to the ends of the earth for me, and I would for them, and
Mhm.
that's all we
Exactly.
can do is ride the wave, right? I mean, that's how this works, and
Exactly.
you're still
Yeah.
here
And I'm
after.
not a thrill seeker.
Yeah.
I've learned that. I don't know if you saw the post I did in August about the kayaking incident.
No, I didn't. No.
Oh God. So I kayak. I'm a big time kayaker, and I got into an inflatable that was underinflated on the Tuckasegee and crashed into a boulder and nearly drowned. And I'm underwater and I can't seem to get myself back up, and I'm hearing all these loud noises. Lay back on your back. Float to the top. And I'm like, shut up. I'm dying. This is my time. I'm dying. What a shitty way to go. I don't want to drown. That's not how I want to die. But I finally floated to the top, and here's the thing. A 9-year-old kid named Johnny jumped out of his kayak, grabbed me by the life vest, and pulled me across, 9-year-old, to the bank, and then went and grabbed my kayak. And I still had 2 hours of floating down that frickin' river, which I loved until that day. And it was a reset of all time. And now I'm saying, okay, it's okay. You can't possibly do some of this stuff anymore. And if you do, you're going to have to lose a lot of weight, which I'm working on very hard right now. But am not going to live in shame. I'm not going to make myself wrong for getting large. I did what I did, and I'm now on a self-styled 7-week long diet that's going to continue as a lifestyle. And it's very little sugar, no soda, which was my nemesis, and no bread. And Kathy Luce, my coffee buddy in the mornings, told me about cauliflower bread, which I'm madly in love with. And so I'm looking for uh, alternatives and solutions instead of misery.
Well, and what a metaphor
And
for
misery
life.
was what I was always looking for before.
Yeah, well,
What's
and
that?
probably without knowing it, you were probably looking for misery without knowing it or identifying it, and now you understand that.
I know misery really well, so it was like very familiar friend.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we resort to. I think is the stuff that we're used to, the pathways that were
Sure.
formed in our brains many, many years
Right.
ago. But no, I mean, what a metaphor for life, right? That you're underwater and you can't get up, and then you get help from somebody. In
Exactly.
this case, a 9-year-old kid, and you float to the top and you move on with your life. And
Yeah.
I mean, what a cool
Yeah.
metaphor for life.
It was a life change that I think about every day.
Well, and sometimes that's what it takes to shake us out of these patterns. I know that's for me very
Absolutely.
much. You get into the same kind of patterns. You worry about the same kind of things, and you take stock and say, look, I've already litigated this in my brain. So why am I continuing to
Right.
have these conversations over and
Exactly.
over again?
And just finding out, Matt, that we have choices. We can choose how we perceive things
Yeah.
and how we respond to things has been a big thing as I have turned 60. I'm not upset that I'm old.
Yeah.
I'm not upset that I'm overweight. I'm aware that I can not get younger, but I can feel younger,
Yeah.
and I can feel lighter and be lighter. And I feel like I have some say in what happens to me.
Yeah.
When that's a thing that didn't exist in my 40s.
No, well, and that's really good perspective to have. And also, as we've talked about many times and on the show, taking the failures as they come, learning from them, growing, pivoting. I mean, all that is so critical to be able to, you rarely as an entrepreneur start down one path and end up on that same path by the end of the day.
Absolutely. It's the expression of when we plan, God laughs.
Yeah.
My God laughs hysterically all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah.
You're gonna do what?
Good
You kidding?
intentions pave the road to hell, as they say, right? So we all ended up in a different place than we expected, which is part of the fun, right? I mean, this is part of the reason we do this, and we don't go get 9 to 5 jobs. So, which we've both had and left. So
Yes.
well,
Yes, the same company.
it was the same company.
So
That is.
you were at CNN, I was at TBS.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a different experience for sure to be out here doing this on your own. So, but I really appreciate you sharing your experience with us. I always appreciate your friendship. You know how much I love you and just love having you as a part of my life.
Got me for life.
Yeah. Hey, likewise. And next time I come back to Atlanta, we'll definitely get together and do this in person. And I genuinely appreciate your outlook on life and what you share with the people around you and those who are in your orbit. So I wanted to make sure that the rest of our podcast universe got to share in that as well. So appreciate you joining us.
Well, I'm now a big fan of the podcast, and I'll be following.
Excellent. And you are episode number 10. So we're now in double digits.
Wow. I'm a 10 finally.
You're a 10. Yes, you're finally a 10. So, well,
please give Amanda a hug for me.
I will absolutely do that. And Krista will be sad that she missed you, but we'll have to have you on again. That's all there is to it.
Okay. Tell her she can analyze me anytime.
and I'm sure she will. So, well, thank you. Thank you again for joining us. Thanks to our audience for joining us again. If you liked what you heard today, you can always email us at emotionalrunway@gmail.com. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. And all of your friends who are entrepreneurs who need this resource, please share it with them. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.